everyone. Welcome to the webcast today. We're going to get started here pretty quickly. But before we begin, just a couple of administrative items. We have several people joining today, so as far as any Q&A goes, we're going to save any of the questions for the end of the webcast, but you can post your questions along the way in the little question panel and the little webinar pane on the right-hand side of your screen. And also there's some as far as any questions, what we'll do, I guess, is wrap it up at the very end, and I'll just kind of go through the list and answer them one by one, as opposed to having everyone on the line, throwing the questions out there and have a bunch of background noise. So you're going to be in listen only mode. So let's go ahead and get started here. I'll start off with just a couple of slides to kind of kick things off, and then we'll go into the product more firsthand. I thought I would start off with just kind of touch on what this product is all about. And so we'll go ahead and move forward here. Just to give you a little bit of an introduction to what SQL Inventory Manager is all about and why we developed it. Originally, when we were talking to some of our customers about other products that we offer, we would ask them about the size of their environment just to kind of get a gauge or scope of what what we're dealing with the size of their environment, or what they're dealing with various challenges. And we found that a lot of times they didn't have a very good grasp on what the number of instances were in their environment. And so we started off with the development of this tool to simply discover the SQL instances across the enterprise. And then over the years, we evolved the product to meet other requirements that our customers had. And so the product's been around for many years. And so it started off with a simple concept of discovering any instances across the enterprise, but then went into many other different areas. But we intended all along to make this a product that was lightweight, easy to use, easy to get through the product, and scalable to that point as well. So the main focus of the product is inventory, or discovery of SQL instances, and then we'll talk about some of the other features on top of that. But these bullet points kind of touch on what the product is capable of. And of course, the first bullet point is management of the enterprise SQL sprawl, or any instances that may be considered rogue instances, or instances that are out there that you are not aware of. Then moving along from there, some of the other features that we added were flexible discovery options. Originally, the product discovered using the browser service, but obviously over the years, things have changed with respect to the browser service. And of course, with the browser service and regulatory compliance, we find that that is a service that is disabled. So we added to the discovery and provided options like discovery through Active Directory, or port scan, or simple WMI connectivity, or looking at the service control database, registry, just different options like that. We'll go into that here in a little bit. But also we built on that to discover both on-prem and cloud-based instances. So if you have instances now out in Amazon or Azure based instances, we can also discover them. Also, a lot of our customers wanted to know where BI services were located. So we have that flexible option now. If you want to select a little checkbox in the settings, you're able to pull that type of information. And around all of this, when you discover these instances, of course, from a reporting perspective, you want to be able to sort and organize based on different attributes or different criteria. So we did provide flexible options for creating tags and grouping capabilities in the tool. There is some basic license reporting, and I think when we look at the description of the webcast today, it talked about avoiding expensive true-ups. Well, there's basically a report that shows you your instances, and it tells you basically the number of processors and cores, if it's covered under software assurance and things like that. So we have a report that is available that you could hand to auditors, for example, for true-ups and things like that. There's basic health check awareness in the tool. We'll get into that here in just a second, but we wanted this to be a scalable solution, so it's not intended to be a full-scale monitoring type product, but to understand, volumes are filling up, or if you haven't had any backups on your databases, um, or even recent backups, or if integrity checks haven't been performed in quite some time, or if you haven't had recent integrity checks performed, or if a database is inaccessible, or tempdb has inconsistent file sizes. These are things you might want to know when you find out that there's an instance out here that you weren't aware existed. And so we do have some of that basic health awareness, and also kind of going hand in hand with health checks would be the patch analysis, making sure that patches are up to date, and there's a report for that. So I like to kind of bunch those two together. And all of this is available through a graphical web interface. It's a secure, fully authenticated web interface. So you basically log in, you'll have the IDERA dashboard accessible, but once you're in the dashboard, then you can pick from any of the IDERA products to browse to and look at the data. But in this case, we would be going to the inventory portion of the products that we offer, the SQL Inventory Manager, and that's where we're going to go today. So those are the key benefits, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. So I'm just going to show you the architecture of the product, and then we'll jump right into it. This is the SQL Inventory Manager architecture. It's a very simple architecture. In fact, the slide here actually adds a little bit more complexity than we really need to, because it has the dashboard service and the repository, which is the envelope web interface that goes around the product. Really, the core components of this product would include the web application service, the collections service, and that's it. So you have, and the repository, the backend database, but basically those three components, and everything would be viewable and accessible through your own web browser, through that graphical web interface I was speaking of. Down at the bottom, it displays different options for discovery, like I said, through WMI or RPC, technically, to reach out to registry or the service control database. Also through WMI, it gathers some of the relevant performance metrics as well. There's not a lot of performance metric data in here, but like, for example, getting some of the CPU information. There is some information about, like, also to go hand in hand with that, around like transactions per second through queries to the SQL Server to pull that type of information as well. But basically, the bottom represents different ways that we do the discovery and then connect to the instances. And that information is then stored in the SQL Inventory Manager repository. Okay, so with that, let's just jump right over to the interface and look at it. All right. So this is SQL Inventory Manager, and I'm already logged into the interface. There's basically four sections that we go to manage or interact with this product. I'm already on the home screen. I'm going to come back to the home screen because I want to start off as if we were going into the product for the first time and managing the tool. So let's go over here to the administration section. And under the administration section, we have these options for managing the product. And some of it's pretty self-explanatory. Like if you want to add users to manage the product, there's your manage users. And you can click on that and pick on different users and edit them and decide whether or not they're going to subscribe to critical alerts or not. And you can also set their role within the product as well. Let me cancel that. Then you have instances that you can manually add. The instances sections where you go to add instances or import SQL instances from CSV. Typically, the tool's used, like I said, to discover instances. But if you want to add any of them manually, there is the option here. The discovery options are over here on the right-hand side. We'll get to that in just a minute. If you are planning to pull in information around your virtual environment, there's the Manage VM configuration where you can tie into Hyper-V or VMware. You can also configure SMTP settings under the alert emails and manage subscriptions for your users to be able to receive alert notifications. Here's the core factor table. This is available throughout the tool, but basically for the license reporting, we have the core factor table, and you can check for updates where it will reach out to our community site to gather those updates. Manage health checks. This lists all of the different health checks that we provide. And so I think I've named off most of these here at the beginning, but like databases that are at a risk of filling up or transaction logs that are at a risk of filling up, you can enable or disable any of these that you see fit to alert to. Databases that haven't had a backup or backup is not current, or databases haven't had a consistency check performed recently or ever. Databases that are not in a usable state. Database has auto shrink enabled. SQL Server is slow. That's through a select one query. We're getting the results back, and if it's taking a while for that to come back, then we'll alert you to that. TempDB with inconsistent file sizes. There's not a lot of checks here, but it does speak to some of those health areas that you would obviously ask if you found out that there was a SQL instance out there that you weren't aware of. And we try to keep this list, lightweight, and so the product is scalable when it comes to pulling this information across a large environment potentially. Let me close that. And then we have the tag management on the right-hand side. Here, let's go up here. There's first the manage license. If you want to plug in your license key, that's where that goes. And then manage tags. We provide some tags out of the box. Tags are just another name for groups, basically for sorting and organizing your instances within the reporting features of the product. Some of these are just, known out of the box type tags or groups that you would want, like the label of production, or I have one here for 24/7, for example. But some tags we provide, some of them you might provide around attributes of your own environment based on location or region or department or hosted applications or allocated resources. However you plan to do the reporting in your environment. Could also be based on various team members, their names, although when you add instances, you're able to give them an owner, a particular DBA type owner if you want to, as far as who's responsible for that instance. This will come back to us here in just a moment when we get into the reporting aspects of the tool. Under the Discovery section, we have the Discovery Center options, and we have these various options for discovery. Like I said, when the product was first developed, it had the browser service discovery and also ODBC, and that's why we have this tab here. This was the original discovery option, and just through the browser. But then, of course, with the evolution of security concerns, we provided other options. So it wasn't just about the browser discovery where you have to have that service running, advertising its presence. But now, under the computer scan feature, we have, first of all, the scheduling of when it's going to run, but you can have it run discoveries around IP address ranges, specific domains, or through Active Directory, SQL Server Resolution Service, Service Control Manager, WMI, Windows Registry, TCP probe or port scanning. Down here a little further, you have the ability to discover BI services. You can plug in different credentials as well if you want to. Otherwise, it will leverage the service credentials for the product that you have configured with the product itself. But you can plug in multiple credentials for it to attempt to connect with as well. And so you have different options there. There's also the cloud discovery for Amazon or Azure if you want to have it discover any instances in the cloud. Okay, so also if there's anything that you want to add for customization within the reporting, like different fields at the server level, instance level, or database level, there is this manage custom inventory fields. And I created my own little environment concept for my own custom inventory fields. Like at the server level, I put maintenance window and I put a pick list of Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. For the instance level, I put regulatory compliance, meaning is this an instance that we need to make sure is, falls under regulatory compliance and is reported on and watched and monitored under the context of regulatory compliance. And at the database level, maybe perhaps under these instances, certain databases hold specific regulation types. And so at the database level, I have a couple of different regulatory compliance guidelines that I put in for a pick list. And again, you can do this on your own. You can make it just the way you want. You can tie in certain health related fields, custom fields that you put in your own markers for, perhaps. But it allows you to have a little bit more customizability and flexibility to wrap this product more around your own environmental needs. The last section is the reporting section. It's just basically it's more FYI where you can go to get some of the RDL files to go along with what you see in the report. And basically, if you want to set up a subscription to email certain reports around the information you're going to see today, you could do that through reporting services. All right, so next thing is, you run the discovery, and you can run the discovery just by clicking the discover button here on the upper right, or just let it run on its scheduled basis as you configured it. But instances will be discovered and displayed under this instances section. So like I said, there's basically 4 areas that we go to manage the product. So I'm just going to move a little bit to the left, go to the instances. I'm going to get a little message here because my certificate doesn't match my name here, but that's okay. But under this drop down, we have the discovered instances. And so that's the first place you would go just to see what was discovered. I already have instances that are discovered and managed. And as I select to manage instances, that's where a license is consumed. But originally, I would go to the discovered instances section to see anything that's been discovered. I can click an instance and then ignore it if I want to, log into it, add the instance. And if I click add, it walks us through the little wizard to add the instance and identify whether it's a private or Amazon or Azure based instance. Next, set up the credentials for how it's going to gather that data for both SQL information and WMI or Windows OS related information. And you can either use a service account or plug in your own unique information for SQL connectivity or for WMI. Next, you can plug in unique owners for the attributes, location for where that instance resides, put in any comments to complement that instance as well, and then select from any of the tags that we have provided or any of the tags that you've created, or you can even create a new tag if you want to. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel that and go back here. And then once the instances are discovered and you have added them to be managed, then you'll be able to go to the manage by instances, either by looking at individual instances, or if they fall under virtualization specifically, you can also have it managed by host server. And so I'll go back over here to manage by instances, and these are the instances that I'm managing. Again, this is just a little demo environment, but it shows me the instances that I've discovered and decided to manage. On the left-hand side, we have different options for sorting and organizing, either using tags that we've created or based on who owns the instance. And so, for example, if I wanted to just see the instances that are relevant to Linda Fredericks as a DBA, I can click on that and it will organize that for me. So I'm not showing all the other instances across my enterprise, potentially a large enterprise. And you can also remove that and get the full list again. As far as that goes, and of course, you have other options like for location or major version, minor version, or edition. As far as that goes, the report itself displays a lot of those different attributes: the version, the edition, number of overall databases that reside on each instance, the overall amount of space consumed, who owns the instance, the location, whether it's clustered, how it was discovered. Any report that you see on this product, if you need to pull that information out to share with other audiences, there's a little drop down here and you can select PDF, Excel, or XML from the drop down if you want to. Those are my managed instances. Here's the license reporting that could help you, to avoid any expensive mistakes from a licensing perspective by, first of all, discovering the instances that are out there, but then second, you can go through and see your detailed information relevant to licensing. So as I scroll across, I can see whether they're virtualized, the version, edition, the host server, the CPU name, the number of sockets, number of logical processors, number of cores, core factor, possible core licenses, if it's covered under virtualization, and also the little checkbox here for software assurance. And again, there's that core factor table relevant to the licensing, the same as what we already saw under the administration section. Oh, and last one is, anything that has changed and when it last changed as far as the configuration. Again, we can export this information out to PDF or Excel or XML as well. And then going down the list here, the next one I would say is important is the patches to kind of go hand in hand with the licensing to see anything from the perspective of any of these instances that need to be patched, perhaps. And so this will show the SQL version and edition. Again, some of the information that we saw before as far as the attributes of the number of databases, if it's still supported, if there are any updates available, the support status. These are interactive reports, so if there are hot fixes available, you can click on the hot fixes link and it'll pop up this window to show you the knowledge base articles and provide a link to the knowledge base article as well. And then BI services. And so that basically this is just displaying any integration services, reporting services, analysis services, anything discovered from that perspective. And again, you can sort on the left-hand side. All of these reports have this pane on the left-hand side that you can select different attributes and sort and organize appropriately. So those are some of the reporting aspects. Now I'm going to kind of jump over to the home screen, which is where we saw when we first came in, what we saw at the very beginning. Because when you first open up the product, this is where you're going to go. And so this will display some of those health check areas that we were looking at under the administration section, like if databases haven't been backed up or they haven't had an integrity check performed in quite some time. But you'll have the full list of all the alerts here on the main screen. You can also click the show all recommendations to get a little more real estate for all of the alerts that were popped up for anything that was a issue with a health check. And all of these can be expanded. So the databases haven't had consistency check performed. You can expand it to show the details to see the instance and the database name for where integrity check hasn't been performed. Then you can hide the details after that and basically drill into any one of these alert areas. There's also the report export option here where you can either pull out a summary, just the high level summary of the recommendations, or drill into the details, or drill into the details of very specific recommendations, depending on who the audience is that will be looking at this information. And these alerts are for the entire enterprise, and this view is the enterprise view, but we will drill into an instance here in just a moment. But because this is the enterprise view, it will also include information on the right-hand side about the enterprise, the number of overall health recommendations, both private or in the cloud, number of any instances that are newly discovered. A little bit down further, we have the number of overall databases across the entire enterprise, the amount of data space consumed by data files and log files across the enterprise. And then on the left-hand side, we also have for the entire enterprise, the top databases by size, the top databases by transactional activity. Down at the bottom, the instances that make up the enterprise data environment. With any of these lists, you'll see this little gear icon. If you click on that, you'll have different management options. In this case, to refresh data, to disable the monitoring temporarily, if you're planning on updating the instance or rebooting it, and you just don't want it kicking out alerts, or you can remove it completely from the monitoring or from the management, decommission it, which will still keep it in a management from a license consumption level. It's still being managed, but it puts it into a different bucket where it is being planned to be decommissioned. And of course, add instance properties if you want to change ownership or location and information like that. You also have some response time information and whether the instance is up or down, up-down status. And if you want to drill into to get more granular into a particular instance and look at the databases, then we just click on it right from the screen, and it will bring up another window. It looks pretty much the same, but you'll notice now we're looking at just the one instance instead of the entire enterprise. And so all of the alert information now is relevant to just that one instance and not the entire enterprise. And again, we can show all recommendations and drill into just the recommendations for this instance instead of the entire enterprise if that's what we want to do. The right-hand side shows us the current status of up, down, uptime status, the response time, and you have both instance level and server level summary details. At the instance level, we get the version and edition information. Here's the patch updates available link. Again, if you click on that, it's the same as what we saw within the report, but you have the link here. You'll see we put different options in different locations, maybe multiple locations strategically for the different audiences that are going to be looking at this information. You have your memory configuration, listening port details, whether it's clustered, again, number of databases for this instance, the data size and log size consumed, owner, location. Here's where some of those custom inventory fields come into play. Notice here, regulatory compliance. Remember back on the administration section, I showed you the custom inventory fields, and I had created my own custom inventory fields. And at the instance level, is this covered under regulatory compliance? I have yes for this one, but I could edit using the little pencil button here and make a modification to that and select from the list if I want to. And I have that option available at the instance level. Again, at the server level, down here a little further, there's the server summary, and notice the maintenance window I've set up for Friday, but I can modify that and change it to other maintenance windows. The server details are listed here as well. Click on that and it shows me the OS information, the drives or volume details, the amount of space available or the full capacity, information about the processor configuration. And up a little higher, some things I skipped over here when I jumped down because I was talking about the custom inventory fields. But I have the view configuration settings. So that will show us the sysconfig details that we can drill into here. And view instance principals. So we'll see the logins at the instance level, the roles as well, and the members of those roles. And then on the left-hand side, again, we have the health checks, but then we go down a little further and we're able to see for this one instance or the server, what the top applications are that are accessing that server and the specific instance below the server. Top databases by transactional activity, and then a list of all the databases down at the bottom that reside on this instance. Again, we have the little gear icon that we can go in and modify tags, disable monitoring, or decommission. And looking to the right of the database, you have the number of recommendations that were discovered per each database, the type of database it is, the amount of space consumed by that database, and the overall activity, transactional activity. If you click on a database, I'll just pick on the good old AdventureWorks here. It'll pull up the details of that database and show any tags for sorting or organizing through the reporting. The last full differential and transactional log backup, the last time a DBCC check DB was performed, the location of the data files and transaction log files at the bottom, the recovery model. Again, here's a custom inventory field I was speaking of. So even at the database level, I've put my regulation type as PCI DSS, but you can put in whatever regulation types that you want in your own customizations. And there's the view database level principles that will pop up for that database, the logins that would have access, the roles, and schema information. So a lot of good information there. So that's what's available through the home screen, and there's one more tab available that we'll look at here. So remember, we touched on administration, then instances, then home screen, and through the home screen we drilled into the enterprise first, then into the instances below the enterprise. Well, the last tab is the Explore tab. So I click the Explore tab, And it kind of brings it all together in this view. And so what it's showing me here is kind of a graphical view, graphical breakdown in different ways, the way I want to see it. Like this is my instance count by DBA owner, the way I configured the ownership of my instances. So I can see who owns the most instances across the entire enterprise. Or maybe the database count, and that's by owner, or databases by location, perhaps. You can decide how you want to do that, but it could also be, data size by location or by database. And notice this one actually shows all my databases at the bottom. All of them will display a list view of whatever you have selected for your filter table. I've just chosen, in this case, data size based on databases, but this is, again, for the entire enterprise. So if I want to basically sort this or organize this based on a location or based on an owner, I still have these other options. Like for the owner, I pick Linda Fredericks, and it organizes everything just for that one individual and shows me the status of the instance and all of that. Or based on location, maybe I'll pick on Miami this time, or Miami and Houston. So you have different options to sort and organize in this report. And of course, it also has major version, minor version, SQL edition, database name if you want to put in a particular database naming across all of the instances, or based on instance. So you have a lot of flexibility there. And again, you're able to export whatever information you pull into the report, export the details out to PDF, Excel, or XML. So once again, this product was originally developed to discover instances, and then from that development effort came a series of other requests and requirements. And so we have now expanded the product to provide some health checks and all this kind of detailed reporting at the instance level, or down to the database level, or based on user, or I should say DBA or location, or any of your other attributes that you decide that you want to sort and organize your environment around for reporting purposes. And also, we've added some basic health checks. Again, volumes filling up, or databases or transaction logs filling up, or there hasn't been integrity checks ever performed, or even a recent integrity check or a recent backup for that matter. Those are questions that might come up when you find out there's an instance out there that you weren't aware of. That's really the point of the product. We try to keep this tool nice, simple, easy to understand, easy to build reports. Also, the licensing is something, the license reporting is something that could certainly benefit you when it comes to true ups to know number of processors, number of cores, if it's covered under software assurance, things like that. But that really wraps up what the product is all about. I'm going to take a second here and just go over and see if there are any questions at this point. And let's see. I can pull this pane up. I'm having some problems. Okay, I had a question here. It says, will previously discovered SQL Server instances still be present in my inventory list after the server was removed from the network? Do I need to manually remove it from the inventory list? And the answer is yes, you would have to manually remove it from the list. If that's something that you think would be a feature to have, that would be something we would need to talk with the product manager about. That's actually the first time I've heard that question. It's an interesting question. But I don't think you would probably want necessarily the product to just remove instances from your reporting. Even if you had removed them from the product, you'll still probably want that information somewhat accessible from what was there in the past. It will, if you remove it from the product though, or ignore it, you can select to ignore it so it doesn't get rediscovered. But when you do that, then it removes it from being managed any further, and so it will stop popping up health checks and information like that. But you'll still have the details in the console from when it was discovered. That is the only question, though. And again, if you want to talk to product management, we can always, through your account manager, set up a call to talk about any new features you'd like to see in the product or any enhancements you'd like to see expanded on within the tool as well. That concludes the presentation today. I hope this has been beneficial to you. I hope for any of you that are interested in the product and you're new to the product today, you can go out to the IDERA website, www.idera.com, and download the software right there from the product page. And it will it will come with the license key already embedded with it, so you'll be able to hit the ground running with it. And hold on, we have another question, I think, here. Let's see. It's asking about database compatibility and version upgrade issues at the server level. What it will do if you upgrade the product or you upgrade within the server, within the product, it is constantly polling on a 6-minute basis. That is configurable, but it's checking through its queries the information. That's why we keep it lightweight with everything that we're presenting in the console. And so it would present the new information if there was an upgrade. So that would be updated on a regular basis. So yeah, again, if you're interested in downloading the product, go to the website and you can download it. It comes with a license key built right into it. And then if you need a more formal discussion with any of us about the product, we can certainly set that up as well. So I appreciate you all attending the webcast today. And with that, I'll go ahead and wrap up the webcast. Have a great day.